Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I am back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation I've received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you're currently taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Unfortunately, this is my final no filter Q&A at my current location anyway. I will be moving this upcoming week. So the next time you see me for a no filter Q&A, I will be at my new place. Probably still be in a little bit of disarray. As you can see in the background here, I'm in the middle of the move. So my place is in a little bit of disarray, but bear with me over the next few weeks and we'll have our new location set up, ready to go. So anyway, all right, let's get started with this week's No Filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, I visited my cousin last weekend and she doesn't eat potatoes and drinks 3 cups of coffee and 2 green teas before going to sleep. At dinner, she eats just chicken. The other day, we went to breakfast and just had a yogurt parfait, and she just had a yogurt parfait with nuts. Is this a good balanced meal diet? Each time people talk about their meals, I get confused if I'm doing something wrong. Here's the thing when it comes to diets. Diets in general, it's like religion. I never offer dietary nutritional advice unless I'm asked, okay? Because everyone who is on some certain diet thinks that their diet is the best diet and the only diet to follow, right? You got people who are on the carnivore diet. You got people who are on a keto diet. You got people who do intermittent fasting, right? So you have people that do carb cycling. You have people who are vegans, vegetarians, meat eaters only. So you have all these people who swear by their diets. And I always tell someone the only way you're going to truly know is if your nutritional plan is working for you is A, how you feel, B, how you look, and C, what your blood work says. That's the only way. So someone could say, my diet's the best diet, but what are they backing that on? If they're only saying that they look good and they feel good, but they don't have blood work to back that up, there's only 2 of the 3. Okay. So you have to have all 3. So there's no way to say that one diet is better than the rest. Again, with that being said, when I look at a diet plan like this, and I'm seeing that right now there seems to be no carbohydrates in a diet like that. So it almost looks like to me like a ketosis diet. Okay. The fact that there seems to be only maybe 2 meals on a plan like that too, that doesn't look good. Okay. So for me personally, when I'm trying to put together a customized nutritional plan for an individual, I like to have a balanced meal plan that incorporates lots of complex carbohydrates, lots of healthy fats, and lots of lean proteins. This to me is essential. Okay. So when I see diets that lack certain macronutrients, they're not a balanced nutritional plan. Another thing you have to think about when you're putting together a nutritional plan is your lifestyle. If you're someone who doesn't work out with weights, you probably could get away with eating 1 or 2 meals a day. I know for myself, whenever I take a day off from the gym, I'm not hungry at all. I could go the whole day and have 1 meal. I'd be fine. But as soon as I work out, my metabolism's going. I'm hungry. I want to eat. So that's the thing when you're weightlifting and you're living an active lifestyle. If you're an athlete and you're running daily or you're playing a sport daily, you're going to notice that your metabolism is moving faster and therefore you're going to be more hungry more often. So you want to eat. So it's difficult for me to say, yes, that's a perfect diet because I don't know this person's lifestyle. Maybe this diet does work for that person. Maybe they look great, they feel great, and their blood work's excellent. So the diet's working. To me, though, when I look at a diet like that on paper, I'm looking at, oh, wow, okay, there's no complex carbohydrates. It's very sporadic eating. There's a breakfast, there's a dinner, there's no meal in between. What's your blood sugar levels like? All these things you have to factor in, right? Not just your blood sugar levels, but you also have to focus on your insulin levels. What's that going to do to your quality of sleep, right? So this is why I recommend people have smaller meals periodically throughout the day, as opposed to eating every sporadic on the hour, 2 hours here, 3 hours here, right? So I don't like sporadic eating. I like structured nutritional plans, okay? Meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, meal 4, meal 5, and so on, okay? So I'm not going to say that the diet is a bad diet. Would I follow a diet like that? No. Would I design a diet like that? No. You really have to, when you're doing a nutritional plan, you kind of have to block out the noise. And this is what I tell people. If someone's choosing to work with me as their coach, I'm going to tell them, I'm like, look, I don't know your body yet. Give me time to learn your body, especially if it's a new client. If it's a new client, I have to take some time to learn your body. So how do you respond to carbohydrates? How do you respond to fats? Do we need to really give you that much protein to add on muscle? Do we need to really cut your calories down to make you lose fat? So it really depends on the individual that I'm working with. But once we find the formula that works, we stick with it until it stops working. Okay. So I wouldn't follow just someone's nutritional plan because it's working for them, because their body's very different than yours. Okay. So I said this last week on the channel. I could put two people on the exact same diet, and what they'll do with that diet, they'll get completely different results. Right. And that just comes down to genetics, lifestyle, gender, age, activity level. So these are all factors to take into consideration when you're putting together a nutritional plan and a training program for someone. Okay. So just because someone's telling you that their diet is the best diet and it works for them doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. I don't recommend clients do my diet. I mean, most people consider my diet to be very boring, right? Very mundane. It's very just like every day, in out, same meals. Meal one, oatmeal. Meal two, chicken and rice. Meal three, turkey and rice. Meal four, salmon and yams. Meal five, cod and sweet potatoes, right? Meal six, 5 eggs and another cup of brown rice. So, I mean, my meals are very basic, but it works for me. Okay. And it's taken me years to put together a formula that works for me. But I don't put my clients on this plan because I know people like to have more variety, right? So you have to find a plan that works specifically for you. And that's where it comes down to working with an experienced, knowledgeable coach that can help troubleshoot. And together you can find a plan that's going to work specifically for you. Okay. So I know it's difficult, but try to block out the noise. You want to work with someone who's a professional that can help you put together a plan. By all means, do it. If you want to do it on your own, do it. But try to really stay in your lane and focus on, okay, this is what works for me. This doesn't work for me. This is how my body digests this food. This is what happens when I eat this food. Okay, make notes of that. So then when you're putting together a plan, you know what you can and cannot eat. You know what foods you respond well to and foods you don't. Okay. And if you don't feel like doing all that work, then I strongly advise you to work with a professional that can help take your physique and your health to the next level. All right, next question. Nick, should I use a wide grip or narrow grip when doing barbell curls? I think I might be doing them wrong as I always feel a pain in my forearms when doing these curls. Good rule of thumb for most people who are doing barbell curls, I advise you to go slightly wider than shoulder width apart. You have to remember when you're doing barbell curls, you're working with what's called the outer head of the bicep. So it's also known as the long head of the bicep, right? So your biceps have two heads. They have the length and they have the peak. So barbell curls are more of a length exercise. What happens when people go too narrow, they put a lot of pressure, not just on their rotator cuffs, but they also put a lot of pressure on their lats and internally in their forearm flexors, whereas where you're feeling it, right? So I would advise you to go a little bit wider. Another thing I would advise is when you're taking a grip, use a loose grip. I tell this to clients all the time when they start complaining about forearm pain. I say, you're gripping the bar too hard. You don't need to squeeze the bar. The bar is not going to go anywhere. As long as you have a good grip, not a very tight grip, just a good grip, you should be able to do that movement no problem. Because what happens when you grip that bar super tight, you're cutting off circulation to your biceps and you're putting so much pressure on your forearm extensors, right? You're tightening up. So you got to loosen it, just like you got to loosen your jaw. You've got to loosen your forearms. So loose grip works best. I have a feeling it's not because you're going too narrow or too wide. It's probably because you're gripping the bar too tight. Okay. Another recommendation whenever I tell clients who are doing barbell curls is to keep your thumbs under the bar. Don't wrap your thumbs. When you wrap your thumb, what happens? Yeah, you might feel more secure, but again, you're cutting off circulation to your bicep and you're putting more pressure on your forearm flexors and extensors. So I would not advise you to do that. I advise you to use a grip like this. So it's a cupping grip, just like this. Okay. So you put the bar in your hand and you curl straight up. So that should work, okay? And finally, you should be going for regular massage. When you go for regular massage, ask the RMT to massage your forearm extensors and flexors. Okay, I promise you, this really helps because if you're someone who does weight training on a regular basis, you are putting excess strain on your tendons, in this case, your forearm extensors and flexors. So it's a good idea to get them massaged on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be every week, but say once every 2-3 weeks, that will help as well, okay? And then as a last resort, what I would also recommend, if it's still bothering you, throw some topical on there, Tiger Balm, Voltaren, something like that. That will help, again, just reduce any inflammation that you're feeling in those forearm extensors. That's what I'd recommend. All right, next question. Okay, Nick, do you know of any long-term side effects or injuries caused by weight training for years on end? Yeah, I got this question on my Instagram, I think it was 2 days ago. And it's a good question, right? Because you would think, you look at athletes, professional athletes, right? And most professional athletes, if you look at the NHL players, most of them retire in their late 30s or 40, maybe early 40s, but most of them retire in their late 30s. Why? It's wear and tear on the body. They're playing a sport that's very intense, very physical, very demanding on their bodies year in, year out. If you're talking about the NHL players, these guys are playing 82 regular season games per year. On top of that, if they get to the playoffs, they can easily play another 24 to 30 games. Okay. So it's a lot on their body. You take into consideration practices, right? So for professional athletes that are doing the same sport day in and day out, that's a lot of mileage put on the body doing specific movements over and over and over again. So, there is a timeline where most of these guys usually burn out around 35 to that 40 age, right? And you get a few that go past 40, but not many. So when it comes to weight training, though, the great thing about weight training is you can do weight training for life, right? And the reason you can do weight training for life, if you're smart, you put together a systematic program that you can follow, right? And I talked about this in the past about not going to the gym and bench pressing 5 days a week or squatting 5 days a week, following a training split where you're working different muscle groups on different days. So you're not going to the gym on Monday and bench pressing, Tuesday bench pressing, Wednesday bench pressing, and so on. Monday, you go to the gym, you train chest. Tuesday, you train back. Wednesday, you train shoulders. Thursday, you train arms. Friday, you train legs. Saturday, you take off or you do a cardio day. And Sunday, you give yourself a full day of rest and you repeat. Okay. So you're not overtraining the muscle groups. Okay. So very rarely do I hear of people who train with weights get injured. Okay. The people who generally get injured in the gym are people who are not paying attention, or there's freak accidents that happen. Yes, you could tear a pec if you're not paying attention, but you could also tear a pec if you are paying attention, right? So accidents do happen, but in my experience, you're less likely to get injured if you're training in an intelligent and systematic way, right? Okay, so there's no one says, well, I've been squatting for 30 years, so my knees are shot. No, if anything, your knees should be great. Like I've been squatting for well over 20 years and my knees, I have no problems with my knees. And the reason I have no problem with my knees is because I've been working my quadriceps, my hamstrings, and my glutes for all these years. My knees don't have to do any work, right? And that's the whole thing about weight training is that you want to preserve your joints and you want to stimulate your muscles. So the stronger, let's say, take your elbow, for example, the stronger your bicep and your tricep is, the less work your elbow has to do. So you're preserving those joints. Okay. So when people talk about joint pain and arthritis and osteoarthritis, yes, that can happen. Sometimes that's just due to genetics and age. But when you're weight training, the stronger you are, the less likely you are to get things like arthritis and osteoarthritis and have these injuries, right? Because your muscles are stronger. Okay. So there's no, in my experience or in my opinion, there's really no long-term negative side effects caused by weight training, right? If anything, the benefits, there's numerous benefits that outweigh any potential injuries, right? I talked about that, right? You feel stronger, you look better, you feel more confident, you have a higher libido, right? It's just you have more energy. So there's so much benefits to weight training on a regular basis that it outmasses the potential injuries or any potential long-term side effects like arthritis or tendonitis, which honestly I can't see happening from weight training intelligently to come for years to come. So there's no negative side effects to weight training whatsoever. But again, if you're someone who goes to the gym and you're doing the same shit day in, day out, yeah, you're going to get injured. So don't do that. You want to make sure you're following a program that is put together intelligently and you're taking a systematic approach to each workout you do, okay? And you're listening to your body. So no, in my experience, in my opinion, there's no long-term negative effects caused by weight training. In my opinion, people should be doing it on a regular basis, at least 3 to 5 times per week. All right. Next question. Okay. Nick, do you ever get bored of living a super strict lifestyle with your diet and workouts? I don't think I could eat clean 24/7 and work out every day. How do you get your clients to do this? I don't get my clients to do this. I never expect any of my clients to work out 7 days a week and eat a super strict diet 24 hours a day. And I'll be honest, I don't do that myself either, right? I still have cheat meals from time and time again. I don't have scheduled cheat meals. I've talked about this in the past. I'll go sometimes weeks and months without having a cheat meal and just stick to my nutritional plan. But every once in a while, if I'm out at a restaurant, yeah, I might have something bad. Not because I feel like it or because it's a scheduled, it's just I'm at a restaurant and there's not many choices, right? So I'll just do it. But that's my relationship with food. I don't feel that I need to have sweets. I don't feel like I need to have anything that's savory. I'm not really a food person. So for me, that's just the way that I am with my food. So I don't really find it boring. Okay. And I've talked about this in the past too, is with my own meals. I will switch up my protein sources and my complex carbohydrates and my fats on usually a semi-monthly basis, right? So every few months, I will switch up my protein sources and I will switch up my carb sources and I will switch up my fat sources. Not because I'm getting bored, just because I believe that it's important to get different types of nutrients from different foods throughout the entire year. Okay. So I'm never really bored with my own diet. At the same time, though, when I design diets for clients, and I mentioned this in one of the first questions, I like to provide a lot of variety because I do understand that people like to have variety in their nutritional plans, and not everyone can eat the same meal day in and day out. Mind you, I do have some people that prefer to eat like that themselves. So there are some people who are just like me with food and like, whatever, just put the food on my plan and I'll eat whatever you tell me to eat. That's fine. Okay. And then when it comes to training, I actually enjoy training. Now at my age, not that I feel old, but at my age, I'm no longer necessarily training for the aesthetics component. Like, don't get me wrong, aesthetics is still a goal of mine. I still want to look good. But right now in my time, like when I'm training in the gym, I do so just to actually help with any potential feelings of anxiety, depression. I honestly feel better after I train. And I talked about this last week is I feel more energized, right? I feel like I'm in a better mood. Better mood. I feel more productive. So that's why I work out now. It's no longer to get big biceps, big chest, and chiseled abs. I mean, if that's a side factor, great. But that's no longer my motivation to get to the gym. Okay. It's to be able to feel better, look better in a sense, feel more confident, feel more productive with my business. It just gets my day going. So that's why I work out. So to some people, they might find that very strict, very boring, day in, day out, eat, sleep, and train. But to me, that's all I really know. That's what I've been doing for the past 20 years. And it's helped me build my brand. It's helped me build my business. So it's worked for me. And like I said, there are times where I will go out. I'll have a few drinks. I might have a burger and fries, but it's not something that I schedule in. It's just I do it when my schedule permits me to do it. But 90% of the time, yeah, my food is clean, right? I am following a fairly strict diet plan. My training is very regimented, right? I do train every day. The only days I take off again is when my schedule says, oh, you got to take today off because you've got like 12 meetings and 16 sessions and you've got online clients to deal with. You don't have time to train. That's when I take time off. So it works for me. So then to answer your question, I don't make my clients do that. I can't make my clients do anything. They're adults. They can do whatever they want. All I can do is guide them to the best of my ability and give them the tools and the resources that they need to transform their physique and improve their health, right? They don't need to follow a clean diet 24 hours a day, nor do they need to be in the gym 7 days a week. Okay. So that's not for everyone. And I get that. So the whole idea of working with a good coach is someone that can work with you as opposed to against you, not lecture you and say, okay, realistically, you can get in the gym 2 or 3 days a week, and realistically, you're going to be drinking beer 3 or 4 days a week. All right. So let's go with that. Let's try to find a program where we can actually work with that. Okay. And that's what a good coach will do. Instead of lecturing someone and waving their finger, say, no, no, you can't do that. Because that's not a good coach. Okay. You've got to work with your clients. You've got to compromise on certain things. Okay. Explain to them the benefits of doing this and not doing this, right? That's your job. So that's what I do with my clients. I don't make them train like me. I don't make them eat like me. I want them to train and eat how it works with their lifestyle and their goals. Okay. Um, so, okay. Nick, what is your preferred choice of cardio when it comes to weight loss? Okay, well, I will talk about this briefly, and because I talked about this before, I don't like to rely on cardio for weight loss. When it comes to losing body fat, I rely primarily on the nutritional plan. Okay, cardio is a second choice. Okay, it's a second alternative, but it's not really my first choice. I would rather someone lose fat from following a fairly clean and healthy nutritional plan as opposed to doing hours upon hours of cardio. With that being said, I do think it's important to incorporate cardio into your life, especially into your daily routine. It doesn't have to be on a treadmill. It could be walking outside, right? Walking from appointments. That's pretty much what I do for my cardio. Okay. So I want to get that out there first. I don't like to rely on cardio to burn fat. Now, when it comes to cardio, though, in my opinion, the best type of cardio you can do if you want to preserve your joints would be non-weight bearing cardiovascular activity. So what I mean by that is something like bicycling, right? The elliptical trainer, swimming. These three activities don't require any pressure at all on your joints. Whereas things like running on a treadmill or running outside on concrete, that puts a lot of pressure on your knees. So you talk to a lot of runners who've been running for, say, 20 plus years, and they'll tell you, most of them will tell you they've got some type of injury, whether it's patellofemoral syndrome or plantar fasciitis, because they're doing that constant weight bearing movement on their joints. So if to me, if you're going to get the same result from going on the elliptical for 45 minutes versus going on the treadmill for 45 minutes, in my opinion, I would go on the elliptical. When I used to train for shows and when I would start throwing cardio in the last few weeks, I'd always choose the elliptical trainer for that reason, because it was non-weight bearing. So I could still get through my leg workouts and my knees felt great. Okay. Where other people were doing a lot of, running on the treadmill, or they were doing speed walking on the treadmill at high levels of inclines, and their knees are shot. So there's a lot of guys I used to train with, and they can't even squat anymore because they were doing all that rigorous cardio for years on end that was putting so much pressure on their joints. So to me, it's again comes down to working smarter and not harder. Okay. So if you're going to burn 1,000 calories going for a 2-hour bike ride, in my opinion, do that over doing an hour and a half run where you're putting constant pressure, or 2-hour run on your knees, right? But again, I want to be clear on this. If you're relying on cardio to burn fat, you're making a huge mistake, because long term, it's not a solution. Okay. The problem with doing that is it's usually not sustainable. I've had a lot of people, when they rely on cardio and they get into this extra motivation, they'll do like an hour of cardio a day and they're losing all this weight and they feel great. Like, oh, wow, this is working. I'm like, yeah, but can you keep this up for the next 20, 30 years? Probably not. Whereas if you change your nutritional plan to foods you like, but you're practicing portion control and you're eating fairly clean, that is something that you can do on a regular basis. So it's sustainable. So it's a mistake, in my opinion, to rely on cardio for fat loss. It's more intelligent to go to the diet, look at your diet, assess your nutritional plan, and make changes where changes need to be made. And still do cardio. But the reason you should be doing cardio primarily is good for good overall heart health, but not for fat loss. Okay. Okay. Nick, should I be supplementing with creatine? I keep hearing how beneficial it can be for muscle building and recovery. I've been getting a lot of questions on creatine the last few weeks, and I will want to say this. Creatine works. Okay. It's probably one of the few supplements that's sold over the counter that does work. I'd put creatine, sorry, up with glutamine. I'm a firm believer in glutamine too. Glutamine helps for recovery purposes. Okay. But here's the problem with creatine is creatine makes the body retain fluid. Okay, so if you're like me and you don't want to hold water weight, you don't want to have that watery look, you're not going to want to take creatine. Creatine will make you stronger in the gym. Why? Because it puts more water into the muscle. So that's why you feel stronger on creatine in the gym. But it will also make you look a little bit more bloated, a little bit more watery, right? Because you're going to have water retention. So I don't like taking creatine for that reason. And whenever a client asks me, hey, should I take creatine? That's always the number one thing I say. I say, well, how do you feel about holding a little bit of water weight? They're like, oh, I don't mind. I'm like, all right, take creatine. But a lot of them like, well, no, I don't want to hold water weight. And, I want to look like as lean as possible. I want to show off my muscle bellies. I want that lean, dense look. I'm like, well, then don't take creatine. Okay. So to answer your question, creatine will work in the form that it will make you stronger in the gym. Unfortunately, though, because once it builds up in your system, it's harder for your body to flush out that water. Okay, so you will be retaining additional fluid. So keep that in mind. Okay, but it does work. Yes, it will make you stronger. How much stronger? Probably about a good like 5, maybe 10% stronger. You have to remember, it's not an anabolic steroid, so it's not going to drastically increase your bench press. But you could notice that you might put on an extra 10, 15 pounds on your squats or your bench press by taking creatine. But to me, it's just not worth it, because I don't want to be stronger in the gym, and then when I take my shirt off, I have no definition, right? Because I'm holding water. So I don't like that look. But again, if you're someone who doesn't care necessarily about how you look, and if you're holding a little bit of water weight and you just care about your strength in the gym, take creatine, because it does work. Just make sure to properly load it. Okay. And usually most creatines, when you buy, they'll explain the loading phase. It's usually like 2 or 3 days. And you have higher dosage. And then once you've loaded to a certain level, then you can start to decrease. Okay. But yes, it does work. Okay. But again, depends on what your goal is. You want to retain fluid? Take creatine. If you don't want to retain fluid, don't take creatine. Okay. Nick, why is it so much harder to train legs than any other muscle group? Well, it's harder to train larger muscle groups, right? You have to exert more energy. A lot of people, this is why a lot of people, especially guys, skip leg day, right? It's hard. And it's hard. The thing about legs is that a lot of men, because most women will train legs, so especially my female roster, they all want to train legs. I have some women that train legs 3 times a week with me, but talk to most guys, and a lot of guys skip leg day or they just don't show up to leg day. And there's a few reasons for that. Because one, for a lot of people, legs you don't really see, right? If you're a guy, you usually wear jeans or shorts and you're covering your legs. Like, well, it's not a show muscle, so who cares? Okay, but there's so many benefits to training your legs because when you train legs, I've talked about this in the past, for men and women, it will release more testosterone into the body. So if you are trying to build more muscle overall on your biceps, your delts, your chest, your back, training legs will actually help that. Okay. So that's why I always tell people it's important to train legs just like any other muscle group. Now, the reason why most people have a challenge training legs is, like I said, you have to exert more energy. You're moving larger body parts. But believe it or not, are not the largest muscle group in the human body. That's a big mistake. A lot of people think that your largest muscle group in the human body is actually your back. Okay. So a lot of people find, like myself, I find training back to be just as challenging as training legs, sometimes more. Okay. And this is why I advise people not to put back and legs on back-to-back days. Try to split them up into your workout routine. So if I'm putting together a 5-day split for someone, I might give them chest day 1, back day 2, shoulders day 3, arms day 4, and then legs day 5. So back is on day 2 and legs are on day 5. So they have that buffer zone, right? And because those workouts are so intense, and because when you train your back, you are using your legs a lot. If you're doing bent over barbell rows, bent over T-bar rows, you're using your legs, right? So you're in like a semi-squat position. When you're doing squats, you're using your lumbar region to stabilize that bar. You can't turn off your lower back completely, right? So a lot of people say when they squat, don't use your lower back. Well, it's kind of ridiculous to say because you're going to engage your lower back. It's going to happen. That's why I recommend, if you're squatting heavy, to use a weight belt just to protect your lumbar region and so you don't get a hernia. Okay. So the reason why it's more challenging to train those muscle groups is because they are larger. You have to exert more energy. You have to move more. You have to you have to actually create range of motion throughout your entire body. If you're squatting down to the floor, you're moving your whole body. If you're doing a dumbbell curl, well, you're just moving your arm, right? So this is why most people love training arm days. You talk to any guy, you talk to any of my guys, they'll line up to train arms with me. But then when legs happen, it's like they're nowhere to be seen, a lot of them, right? Because they don't want to do legs. But arms, no problem, right? Triceps, biceps, smaller muscle groups, like, yeah, it can be intense, but at the end of the day, you're not going to be physically like, oh my God, I just almost died, like most people do after a leg day, if you're training legs intensely in any way. So it's because it's a larger muscle group, you have to create a greater range of motion with not just one particular part of your body, but your entire body. Regardless if you're doing squats, leg press, hack squats, lunges, step ups, you're using your entire body. Okay, so this is why it's harder. You're exerting more energy. And a lot of my clients who wear the Apple Watches, they'll notice they burn an extra 150, 200 calories easily when they train legs as opposed to any other muscle group. Okay, because you are exerting more energy. So that's another reason why you should be training legs. If you're someone who's actually trying to look to lose body fat or stay lean year round, legs are going to burn a lot of calories. Okay, so they're going to allow you to eat more food. So that's another reason you should be training your legs on a regular basis. But it is a challenging muscle group to train. I've mentioned this in the past, how I used to get anxiety before my leg workouts. I still get it to this day because I do find legs to be super intense, but that doesn't change, especially if you're training them with the utmost amount of intensity, which you should be doing. Okay. So train your legs regularly. Don't be afraid to train your legs. And I always tell people too, if you really want a good workout, if you're not training with a trainer, train your legs with a woman. Okay, because women, in my experience, train their legs very hard. I've talked about this in the past when I used to compete. All my training partners were always women for legs because I always found I had the best leg workouts when I trained with a woman. Okay, I trained with a few guys and they kind of gassed out, or they would take too long in between sets, or they want to skip half the workout and just call it out and say, no, no, call it early. I'm like, so if you're a guy and you're struggling for legs and you don't have a trainer, my recommendation, find a female friend, maybe girlfriend or wife, train your legs with that person, okay? Because I guarantee you're going to have a good workout. All right. Uh, see. Got two more questions. Nick, I recently switched over to regular whey instead of whey isolate due to whey isolate being so much more expensive now. Unfortunately, my stomach is having serious problems digesting regular whey. Is there anything I can take instead of whey isolate that is a little cheaper and will be better, will be easier to digest? Okay, so if you're having problems with whey, okay, basic whey, and that is a reason why I recommend for most of my clients to consume whey isolate. Some of my clients have no problem consuming this basic whey concentrate. Like myself personally, I can have whey concentrate. I have no problems whatsoever. But most people I work with are a little bit lactose intolerant, especially as they get older. So this is why I recommend for them to use whey isolate, because whey isolate, as most people know, no dairy. So if you are lactose intolerant, you can consume whey isolate with no issues, right? So the reason why you're probably experiencing this is because you yourself are probably a little bit lactose intolerant, okay? So very common, and that's why a lot of people can't consume basic whey. Now, if whey isolate doesn't fit your budget, okay, a cost-effective alternative would just be simple egg whites. Now, you could buy liquid egg whites in the store by themselves, or you could go the old school method of just taking whole eggs, break the yolk, break the egg, and take the yolk out and have the egg whites. I prefer just to buy the liquid egg whites. Much easier, much more convenient than sitting there and breaking, a dozen eggs a day. So, and then wasting the yolks, because you don't want to be consuming all the yolks if you're just looking for just a lean protein source. Because remember, the yolks are the fat part of the egg. So that's not bad, but if you're looking just for lean protein with not with the additional fat, you want to take out the yolks. Okay. So my recommendation to you would be to switch over to liquid egg whites. Now, drinking liquid egg whites doesn't taste that great, right? I've done it. It doesn't taste very good. So my recommendation, again, turn it into somewhat like an egg white omelet. Get a nonstick frying pan, throw some spinach in there. You can even throw a little bit of feta in there for some additional, like just a little bit of flavor, not too much, but it's just a little bit just to add in that flavor, right? And that should help. Okay, so that's my recommendation because you are looking for something that is just purely a lean protein source, right? So you don't want anything else that's going to have additional fats. That's why I say if you're going to use cheese, just use cheese sparingly. My recommendation, just throw spinach and tomatoes in and have like an egg white omelet. That works great. I've done that many times, okay? I've gone years sometimes without consuming any whey isolate, right? Just because I just got sick of it. I want to switch it up. So I went with egg whites. And egg whites are really easy to digest, okay? So, and they're really low in calories, high in protein, so really good. So that's my recommendation. I don't really have any other alternatives because, I mean, I could say fish if you want to have like cod or tilapia. That's just going to be pure protein, but you're probably looking for something that's quick and easy to digest. And my recommendation is to do something like that. So get an egg white omelet, and just look at if you're having 30 grams of whey isolate or whey protein powder, that's a cup of egg whites right there. Easy to measure out, non-stick frying pan. Takes like 5 minutes to make up. Throw some spinach in there, some tomatoes, a little bit of feta. You got an egg white omelet right there. Okay, so that works really well. So that's my recommendation as an alternative to whey protein powder if you're having a problem, or you're having a hard time digesting it, and if whey isolate doesn't fit your budget, okay? Because egg whites are pretty cheap. All right, so one more question here. Okay. Okay, Nick, do you think it's okay to ask someone out at the gym? I don't go to bars or do online dating, so the gym is pretty much the only place I can meet women. uh, Another question I had on my Instagram. So in my experience, it can work. If you're a guy, the thing is you have to be careful. And that's why I always tell you, especially my guys I train, because I've had that question from a few of the guys I've worked with. I'm like, read the signs. So if you're in a busy gym, you're in a commercial gym and you see a woman and you're attracted to her, if she has her headphones on and she's not even looking your way, or she's just got the resting bitch face on, and guys, we guys can have the resting bitch face too, but yeah, that resting bitch face, I wouldn't approach. I would just let the person work out because a lot of people go to the gym just to work out. I know myself personally. I mean, I train at my gym, so I kind of have to be friendly and open to everyone that comes in, and I have no problem with that. But when I used to compete, I wouldn't want to talk to anyone, right? I just would want to just zone in on my workout. So I would keep my headphones on. If I saw someone I knew, I usually would just nod at them and keep going, right? Because it can be distracting. So I wouldn't recommend it in that scenario. Now, if someone has their headphones off or is taking their headphones off while you're around them and smiling at you, I mean, that to me is a green light to just go in and have a conversation, right? But again, as I said on my Instagram, I would tread lightly here because someone could actually just be smiling and being nice and just being nice to you and just smiling at you, right? Because that does happen too, for both men and women. So uh, I don't want to tell you not to pick up people at the gym because, I personally have met people at the gym myself, but I've always done it in somewhat of a respectful manner because I know that when I'm working out, I don't really like to be bothered. I like to go through my sets. I don't want people coming in and telling me about their day or talking about their night or telling me their problems. I don't want to lose focus on what I'm doing, right? So again, I would read the situation, okay? Because a lot of people just want to go to the gym and work out, and I respect that, right? And that's why there are places like bars, and that's why there are places like social events that you go to, parties like dinner parties with friends, or sporting events, or go on hikes with people, or they have those single events. Because again, it can be very distracting if someone's constantly talking to you and they're ruining your workout. So I would tread lightly on this. I'm going to put up a poll actually on my Instagram on what people think about this because I'd like to hear from both sexes, both men and women, what they think. Because I know for myself, when I'm working out, I don't go to well, I train at my private facility now, but in the past, I wouldn't go to a commercial gym cruising for chicks. I went to work out. If I happened to meet someone, okay, great. But that was never my intention. My intention was always to work out. And I didn't really want to go looking for chicks because I knew that would be distracting to me, right? So fortunately for me, I had headphones or I have a training partner that relied on me to spot him or her. So I wasn't looking around the gym for other chicks. I wasn't doing that, right? So I understand that some guys go to the gym purposely just to cruise, and that's up to you. That's fine. It works for some guys, but women that I train, I can't speak for all of them, but I know that a lot of the women I work with, especially the ones that are single, purposely come to a private gym not to be hit on. Okay, so that's one of the reasons they tell me, like, yeah, one of the reasons we come see you is because we don't want to be hit on at a commercial gym. So, and I understand that because not that I get hit on, but I understand that I don't want to be bothered. So I can kind of relate to that because in the past I'd work at commercial gyms and people would come up and start talking to you, both men and women. And you don't want to be rude, but at the same time, you want to do your workout. So, like anything, I'd read the room, read the situation. Uh, Usually a green light, headphones come down, a smile, but again, someone could just be being nice. So tread very lightly, okay? And just be very careful because a lot of people, like I said, they just want to go to the gym and get a good workout in. And you got to respect that because a lot of people don't have a lot of time in their day. Maybe they're fitting in under lunch break and they only have 45 minutes to get in a workout in and out. They don't have time to socialize. They want to get through that leg workout. They want to get through that back workout. So they got to be in and out. So you got to respect people's times and understand that, some people really are just going to the gym to work out, not to socialize, not to get hit on, not to get picked up, not to make dates. Some people are, but in my experience, most people, especially the ones who take the gym seriously, are not. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, July 1st, Canada Day. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. As I mentioned, this will be my final episode at my current location. I will be moving. I'm hoping to get a next No Filter Q&A up next Monday. No promises because as most people know, moving can be quite stressful and there's a lot of things I got to move in and move out, moving locations. So I'm hoping I will have somewhat of a makeshift setup anyway during the move where I can do this Q&A. So I'm hoping to be back next week, but longest you might not see me is 2 weeks. All right, so get those questions in and I will answer them as quickly as I can. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting my YouTube channel. Thank you for supporting both my in-house and online business. I really appreciate all the support. Thank you all so much and have a great weekend. Bye for now.